purport. So it's 3.15.27 and 28. So the first one for 27. Tasminnatityamunaya asajjamanaha kaksha samana vayasavatha saptamayam devavachakshata grihita gado paradhya Keyurakundalakirita vitankavesho. Synonyms. Tasmin, in that Vaikuntha, Aditya, after passing through, Munaya, the great sages, Shat. 6. Asajjamanaha, without being much attracted, Kaksha, walls, Samana, equal, Vayaso, age, Atha, thereafter, Saptamayam, at the seventh gate, Devo, two Vaikuntha doormen, Achakshata, Sa, Grihita, carrying, Kado, maces, Para Ardhya, most valuable, Keyura, bracelets, Kundala, earrings, Kirita, helmets, Vitanka, beautiful, Vesho, garments. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After passing through the 6 entrances of Vaikuntapuri, the Lord's residence, without feeling astonishment at all the decorations, they saw at the 7th gate 2 shining beings of the same age, armed with maces and adorned with most valuable jewelry, earrings, diamonds, helmets, garments, etc. Purport. The sages were so eager to see the Lord within Vaikuntapuri that they did not care to see the transcendental decorations of the 6 gates, which they passed by one after another. But at the 7th door, they found 2 doormen of the same age. The significance of the doormen's being of the same age is that in the Vaikuntha planets, there is no old age, so one cannot distinguish who is older than whom. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha are decorated like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, with Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma, conch, wheel, club, and lotus. And then text 28. Matta dvirefa vanamal kaya niveto vinyastayasi chatushtaya bahumadhye vaktram bruva kutilaya sputa niragamabhyam raktekshणेन chamanagrabhasam dandhanu dadhano. Synonyms. Matta, intoxicated. Virefa, bees. Vana malikaya, with a garland of fresh flowers. Nivito, hanging on the neck. Vinyastaya, placed around. Asita, blue. Chatushtaya, 4. Bahu, hands. Madhye, between. Vaktram, face. Pruva, with their eyebrows. Kutilaya, arched. Sputa, snorting. Nirgamabhyam, breathing. Rakta, reddish. Ikshanena, with eyes. Cha, and manak, somewhat. Rabhasam, agitated. Dadhano, glanced over. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The 2 doormen were garlanded with fresh flowers, which attracted intoxicated bees and which were placed around their necks and between their 4 blue arms. From their arched eyebrows, discontented nostrils, and reddish eyes, they appeared somewhat agitated. Purport. Their garlands attracted swarms of bees because they were garlands of fresh flowers. In the Vaikuntha world, everything is fresh, new, and transcendental. Inhabitants of Vaikuntha have bodies of just how beautiful this planet of Vaikuntha is. So in the first text, 27, text 27, it states that the Kumaras passed through the 6 entrances or gates without any astonishment. We know and heard that in Vaikuntha there are 7 gates. And I know His Grace Vinod Bihari Prabhuji, he had explained the layout of these gates and Vaikuntha planets, Vaikuntha very beautifully in his class for this chapter, I think about 2 weeks ago. And in his class, it showed, he showed it from the layout of Sri Rangam. So I was reflecting how the Kumaras were such great devotees of the Lord that they did not get allured by the beautiful decorations while wanting to see the Lord. And this shows their eagerness or lalyam or greed to see the Lord. So generally, we have heard in Srimad or in Bhagavad Gita 16.21, it says that Trividham narkasyedam dwaram nashanam atmana kamakrodhas tatha lobhas tasmadeta trayam tyajat. So this kama or lust or krodha, which is the anger or lobha or greed, Krishna says that we should give these 3 things up. Why? Because otherwise, if we become affected by these 3, we open our doors to hell. So we'll specifically today focus on the point that of greed, because this is what what Prabhupada is implying in these texts. So lobha or greed is very bad. However, the same greed can be utilized in Krishna's service. Of course, anything, a devotee knows how to use anything and everything that is even materialistic in the service of Krishna. It's all the thought, the process of what your consciousness is. So how is it that we can use this greed for the service of Krishna? So when we have greed to hear more and more of Krishna Katha, and we are yearning more and more of Sadhu Sangha or the association of great devotees, then this greed becomes spiritual, and that is called the transcendental greed. So we should have this kind of transcendental greed, and that is only to see Krishna. We should not give this kind of greed up. And the more we develop this greed, and the more we can, this is how we can get more spiritual relishment, and that will thus help one make spiritual advancement. So which means that once we get a Lord or greed to see the Lord, the so-called material impediments that we have, they actually don't matter at all, whether it can be some physical challenges or any other, different materialistic challenges that we think of. So sometimes we see that we're feeling, too tired to wake up in the morning to chant or to come to the Mangalarti on weekends even at least, or come in person to hear some Srimad Bhagavatam class or something from some great devotees or, Srila Prabhupada's disciples even, or other devotees for that matter. We would feel that, at least I can tell you from my perspective, because this is what I've been feeling, that my body is too tired. So let me just wake up early tomorrow and chant. Or I will attend the Mangalarti next weekend because I need to make and prepare for kids, kids breakfast and prasadam and all this. Or we can hear just the lecture on the Zoom, or even on YouTube, because it's raining outside and it'll take me so long to just get to the temple. So might as well just hear this on the Zoom class. But have you ever thought, what does all these things mean? Because it means that we're trying to let our minds talk us out of meeting Krishna or his devotees. And I'm not talking about, again, anyone else, but I've seen this myself, and I do these things. So so I'm speaking from that point, and I know all of you are sincerely practicing and don't let these things hinder you from meeting Krishna or the devotees. So this is again for my purification. So we must come over these impediments, and that the mind tells us, and we must take some uncomfort to meet Krishna. I mean, even in the mundane world, we see that someone wakes up at 3 or 4 a.m. to work out or do some yoga to maintain their body, just so that they can either look good or feel healthy. But why do they want to feel healthy, or why do they want to look good? This is all because of just enjoying more sense gratification, whether it's going to help them more by making more money, waking up early, and going to work early and put in long hours at work, or, help get their mind in that peaceful state. But at the end of the day, this is all about, their sense gratification. And it's not, as I said before, it's not wrong to do these things. But somehow or other, we must transfer these things that we do, in somehow how we can attain Krishna and do it for the service of Krishna. So for example, we must do yoga to keep our body fit so that this body can, not hinder me in practicing my sadhana bhakti nicely, or that I will, use the wealth that I get because I'm going to work. I have to go to work, but I'll use the wealth that I get in the service of Krishna and propagating Srila Prabhupada's and Lord Chaitanya's mission. So there are many many different examples of the devotees who we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, or in Bhagavad Gita or in Srimad Bhagavatam about these devotees like Dhruva Maharaj. And he initially had gone to forest to perform tapasya to get the kingdom that is even higher than his grandfather. But again, as soon as he saw the Lord in front of him, he said, Swamin kritarthos mi varam nayache. My dear Lord, I don't want anything else. So when he saw Krishna, Krishna even offered, like whatever benediction you want, you can ask. And Dhruva said, my dear Lord, I no longer have any desires. So just by seeing this Lord, his material desires completely vanished. And that is, that happens when we see the Lord. And another example is of the gopis, and from Srimad Bhagavatam. So these gopis would do anything to see Krishna. They couldn't live in separation from Krishna. So this eagerness is, very much wanted. Then you can see God. And this is the qualification actually to see the Lord. We must have this greed and take up some uncomfort and to see, or to see the Lord. And I know sometimes we feel that my body's just not going to cooperate, and somehow because of your eagerness you still do it. There's magic that happens. The Lord, he says, in Bhagavad Gita, the Chatur Shloki, he says, Dadami yud buddhi yogam tam. So when one is worshiping with full dedication to the Lord, and he has this, the surrender, the Lord from within his heart gives the intelligence on how to come to him. So somehow everything will fall into place. You may feel that I can't do something, but when you actually do it, take that uncomfort and move forward, come out of this mind zone, mind's, hindrance zone. And then Krishna works his magic and provides his mercy to you, that everything somehow works out. It is really like magic. So it is all that, we must have this feeling of greed in our heart to serve Krishna and the devotees. And then everything, falls into place. And this next thing in the text is about the two shining beings of the same age. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he explains that this is important because it helps us understand that there is no old age in the Vaikuntha planets. Vaikuntha means a place where there's no misery. So Kunta means there it's misery, and Vai means without. So without misery. So these Vaikuntha planets have no old age, and everyone has the similar features like Lord Narayan, of course, except a few things that only Krishna has. Like one other example is Shivatsa, or this fine curly hair on the upper portion of the Lord Vishnu's chest. And this is, the sitting place of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. And then the other one is example is also the Kaustuba gem, which he hangs around his neck. And so in this Vaikuntha planet, there is no birth, no death, no old age, and no disease. So how wonderful it is just to serve Krishna with all our might, without feeding any of the body's hindrances. There are no limitations there to serve Krishna in the Vaikuntha planet. And there's no envy towards anyone else. And then these descriptions really, we should really read these because it helps us understand. We may consider some of these material, things very wonderful in this material world, like beautiful mountains and all these things. And Krishna says, right, it's just a spark um, of what he is, in Bhagavad Gita. So it's, there's nothing in comparison to the spiritual abode of the Lord. When we really try, sometimes we may feel like, oh, I want, this is so beautiful. But when we hear and contemplate on these descriptions of the Vaikuntha planets, then we really get our desires, transferred to not feeling, allured by these beautiful, so-called beautiful things in the world. Of course, it all is, emanating from Krishna and his energies, but we'll be understanding that our aim or goal is to serve Krishna and that supreme abode of the Lord. And in text 28, it speaks about the descriptions of Jaya and Vijaya. So how they had the fresh flowers which attracted intoxicated bees. So again, this helps us understand that in Vaikuntha, everything is fresh and very beautiful. We've been hearing the last few classes about the descriptions. So I really request you to go back, and hear these, or if you just read these texts, 16 through 23, in this chapter. They're just so wonderful. And again, if you have this contemplation of these descriptions, I'm sure you'll find nothing, that fits the description in the material world. And maybe, maybe this is how someone may start to develop his or her greed, to see Krishna, and then eventually progress towards the actual surrender of to Krishna. So with that being said, I just wanted to share like two pictures, just to visualize this pastime, and then we can have any discussions. So again, these, I don't have any true realizations of everything that I've spoken about the greed, but I do, again, I seek your blessings and your prayers that these conceptual teachings of Srila Prabhupada can eventually be realized one day. So I will share the two pictures that I wanted to share. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? So these are Jaya Vijaya and Kumaras, four Kumaras, and how beautiful, this is the seventh gate. This is where he sees they both look the same, same as we read in the text.
We are
I'm
not
not
able.
sharing. Okay,
Yeah.
I just realized, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so these two, Kumaras, Jaya and Vijay, they're at the seventh gate, and then these are the four Kumaras. They are, trying to get into the seventh great gate, and they get stopped by these Kumaras. And how they're, looking same, just like Narayan with the four hands, and they're just so beautiful. They look exactly alike, and that's the beauty of the spiritual world. Even though there is, the sameness, but there's also lots of variegatedness at the same time. It's very important to understand that at the same point. And then this is just the spiritual world, how, you see all of them have these bluish body with the four hands. Everyone has this, and they're all serving the Lord. the plants, the trees, this airplanes. We've been talking a lot about airplanes, about in the description. So look at these airplanes. It is just so wonderful. And all these are actually lively. They're, we see that, here you may feel like they're not talking, but in the Vaikuntha planets, they all actually speak and serve the Lord. And it's just so beautiful to imagine and think of this and contemplate on these descriptions. So with that, I would like to conclude today's session. And again, if I've made any mistakes, please, I seek forgiveness from everyone. And also, if there are any corrections, please correct me as well. So for any discussions, we can go towards that. Thank you so much.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
I had a comment. So you were talking about how beautiful the description is, and one should get attracted to it. The point about eagerness that you drew out of the verse is very nice. The share I wanted to share was many years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago. We were doing college outreach, and there was one college girl, who came for a class on, or a series of classes on this section of the Bhagavatam. Guru Maharaj was speaking on it.
Okay.
And I still remember the note she wrote to me after she heard these classes, saying, "Oh my goodness, I grew up thinking of fairy tale wonderlands that I never would exist, and does this actually exist? I am so interested." And this was Krishna consciousness. So it's really nice to see how this section can speak to even new people. So just
Yes, thank you so much for that comment, Prabhuji. It's very true. When I first read these sections too, they were just, I was awed. Like I used to think there's, the nature was so beautiful. Of course it is beautiful, but then when we read these texts, somehow the attraction and that feeling of like, wow, goes away from the material world. And then you somehow feel that, you want to like learn and see this more, and that could be like the initial steps in coming to Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhu, if there are no more comments or discussion, we can end the call. Malatmana Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, I think we are good. Very nice class. It also makes me realize once in a while when we hear these descriptions, right, that how fortunate we are. We have that background, it says, right? One has to be very fortunate to be associated with Bharat Bhumi.
Very true. That is very true. Yeah. Instead of feeling pride, we feel fortunate. So that's important. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your comment.
I think we'll close the session for today.
Sure.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.